It was October of 1941. I was 18 months old. My father was in the Navy and was overseas World War II. My mother and I were living with her parents in Middle Tennessee, in Hillsborough, Tennessee. My grandfather, who was Methodist minister, was sitting in his chair working on a sermon for a Sunday. My grandmother was knitting like she always was, and my mother was reading a book. And I was on the floor on a pallet. I had just learned to walk and she noticed that I was fretful and was not feeling well. And she went over and picked me up. And as mothers do, she kissed me on the forehead. And she turned to her dad and says, "Daddy, he's burning up." My grandfather picked me up and carried me into a bathroom, put me in a tub, filled it up with cold water, and poured ice in it in order to drop my fever. Then he went to the telephone and called. He told my grandmother, "Call the doctor." But this is back when the doctors would come out and do a house call. Two doctors showed up. They examined me, and my mother heard a word that bothered her a lot. She'd never heard that word before, really. The word was polio. The doctor said, "Reverend Trotter, your grandson has polio, and if he doesn't have an iron lung within the next 24 hours, he won't make it." My grandfather stepped to the telephone, called the district superintendent in Nashville, who placed a call to the bishop, wherever he was, and he placed a call to New York City. A iron lung was on a plane headed for Nashville and was put into an ambulance and taken to Hillsborough, Tennessee. And that evening, I was in an iron lung by the next day. I spent almost 6 months in that iron lung. My grandfather had a captive audience, so he taught me to read, which has been a passion of mine for the rest of my life. I can remember my mother working hard to get me back into the point where I could walk. She would take the braces off of my legs and make me walk on my sides of my feet in the kitchen. We had a linoleum floor with had lines in it, and I'd be screaming in pain, and tears would be rolling down her face, and she would say, "Son, if you can feel the pain, you can learn to walk." And I did. I stayed in braces till I was about 12. In high school, I played football, weightlifting, wrestling, played with a marching band. Uh, I was a regular teenager through the 1950s. In the early 1960s, I attempted to join the Navy. And when the recruiter saw that I had had polio, he said, "I'm sorry, son, but we can't take you." And I goes, "Why? I'm in good shape." He said, "Yeah, but you've had polio." And I couldn't understand why it was, what difference that would make. And then I heard the words post-polio syndrome. And I heard that it normally waits until someone's in their 60s or 70s, maybe 40s, 50s, later in life. And so I didn't worry about it too much. I've had a horse ranch. I spent over 1 million miles on the back of a Harley Davidson. I've had a good life. I've done a lot of things. I was heavily involved in the civil rights movement in the 60s. But as I got to be in my 60s, I was beginning to wonder why it seemed like I was getting weaker and there wasn't much of anything I could do about it. I couldn't exercise and build my muscles back up. It just didn't make any sense to me. 2 years ago, I came here to Asheville and I was examined by a doctor. And he said, "Jim, you have post-polio syndrome. And I thought to myself, I thought I'd beat it. He said, no, he said, exercise is not going to do you any good. He said, you tear down your muscles, they don't get replaced. There's no way to replace the muscles. I said, well, what does that mean for my future? He said, well, Jim, the heart's a muscle. Think about it. I'm 80. My wife is 12 years younger than I am, and I know she's going to be around a lot longer than I am. So I've spent most of the rest of the time up here trying to make sure that when I'm gone, her life will be a lot easier. That's why she's buying the Airbnb. I'll be paying for it mostly. I'll be making the payments on it, but she'll be setting it up and running it, something where she can make a little extra money. I wanted to tell a story tonight about something I called something for Stevie, which is a story about my aunt who took in a young man in her restaurant who had Down syndrome. And I mentioned that simply because I remember Aunt Roberta taking in this young man and how he survived in the restaurant, how he became a fixture and kind of a mascot of the people who ate there and what they did for him and how he survived. And that has kind of given me hope that I live day to day because I know the time is coming. It is for all of us. I mean, you know, it's not something that's unusual. All of us are going to face it eventually. But now I have a pretty good idea of when, and that's sobering. So that's my story, and I'm down to using 2 canes. They tell me that I'll be in one of those electric chairs one of these days soon. I'll need one of those kind of vehicles that, you know, that has a ramp in the back and all that stuff, but I don't know whether I'll get that far or not. So that's the story, and that's where I am. And frankly, my church is praying for me. I sing at church almost every Sunday. And I still am a Mason. I'm a member of the Rotary. My wife will be president of the Rotary next year. And so we try to remain. I was very active in the election, this past election. I try to stay active and where I'm doing something that's worthwhile. But that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I don't have a punchline on this story.
You don't need one, man.
It hasn't worked. It hasn't reached that point yet.
Yeah.
But I'm still struggling. I quit smoking and I quit drinking the same way, one day at a time. And that's what I'm doing now, one day at a time.
I think that was a pretty damn good punchline / ending, Jim. If that's
Yeah,
what you're
he's
looking
the
for.
punchline.
Yeah, okay.
Amazing, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah. Huh.
I'll mute.
Well, I don't stay unmuted for 1 sec. I'm just curious.
Okay.
Well, I just sort of, Yeah, I'm curious what compelled you to think about the story. And then I know you said you're a storyteller. And one thing storytellers do is they tell stories by, you know, whatever they're going through stuff in their life. But I do think that kind of thing you're going through, some people might not want to tell that story. And because it's pretty hardcore, you know, and I'm wondering why.
Most of the people I know, even doctors, know nothing about post-polio syndrome.
I don't.
It's what it is muscles are wasted.
Yeah.
As they deteriorate. And of course, as you get older, your muscles deteriorate anyhow. But most people, by exercise, walking and working out, can rebuild those muscles. But not if you have post-polio syndrome. Muscles do not get rebuilt. I fell and hit my head a while back, had a stroke. I was unconscious for about a week and a half, in the hospital for almost 2 months. Found out I have congestive heart failure. Uh, those things all add up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I'm not looking for sympathy.
Doesn't sound like you're doesn't sound like that at all.
No, I appreciate prayers, but me and the Lord have a pretty good relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I know that it won't be long before I'll be able to see my mother and my father and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles who passed. The time will come,
Mm-hmm.
and we had good life together when I was a kid.
Good.
So,
Well, yeah.
and my
Well,
wife, my
go ahead.
wife is an unusual lady. She's a native of Venezuela. She came here as a legal immigrant. Uh, she chose me after we dated for 1 week. She moved in. She has a master's degree from MIT, speaks about 5 languages fluently. Me,
Wow.
I'm just an old Tennessee hillbilly, and I speak English and Southern.
There's something so charming about the Tennessee hillbillies, though.
Well, why she ever decided that she wanted to hook up with me, I don't know. But I'm so glad she did, because she's been taking care of me for the last 2 or 3 years now.
Mm.
Without her, I don't know what my life would be like.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I appreciate you sharing that story, Jim.
Thank you.
I do. Well done, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Cool. All right, let's move to Vegas, Bob Dancer. And remember, I'm still working out this format. It's tricky to yeah. I think about what is a mental health centered story, and it can mean a lot of things. So I know Bob's story. I'm not going to ruin it, Bob. I'm not going to tell him what's going on. It's maybe not a classic mental health story, but it's an interesting story. So I'll shut up and let you tell it.
1983, I'm in a barber's chair for my first time with this barber. Actually, Dan isn't a barber. He's a beautician. He and his partner Art run the LA International Airport Beauty Salon. Most of the customers are straight women and gay men, of which I'm neither. I was turned on to this barbershop by a soon-to-be ex who knew I liked to hear interesting stories from, and she knew Dan. She thought he was bright and that I'd like him. First week, basically all we talked about were the Dodgers and the Lakers, which are safe subjects in Los Angeles. Everybody loves them. They were on good years at that time. Although he mentioned that he volunteered one night a week at a gay rights hotline. And I told him that I gambled regularly at backgammon. And we both were looking forward to hearing stories about that in the following weeks. My appointments, we made them for 6:30 every other Thursday. The next Thursday I came, he had red eyes, like he'd been crying all day. I asked him what was wrong. He said he and Art were making a quilt. And on this quilt, they set aside an area in the center for 6x6 squares. And on each of the squares, Art would embroider the name of one of their friends who died from AIDS. This time I heard it, there were 11 people on the quilt. When I stopped going to Dan a year later, there were 18. They knew they'd fill up the whole 24. The only question is, did they have the energy to go on after they finished this one? The first time Dan talked to me about AIDS, I didn't think any more of AIDS than I would about malaria. Malaria happens to people in third world countries. That's not me. AIDS happens to gay men. That's not me. So I didn't really consider this as something that I needed to be concerned with. But over the next years, I talked to Dan regularly. He became a friend. Lots of AIDS stories. His problems became my problems. And I knew AIDS was something that affects all of us. And my life was changed significantly. This beauty shop was a crazy spectacle to me. I had always lived in the city and I had known a few gay people, but usually one or two at a time. And they acted straight, I guess, because if they got too far out of line, it was unsafe for them and people would harm them. People would make their life rough. But here, there was a group of gays amongst a whole bunch of other gays. And so they let themselves be themselves. And things that I had never experienced before happened regularly. One day, Dan and I were having this conversation about Magic Johnson, who you may have heard is a pretty good basketball player. And it was, Dan would be like any of my other bright friends. We're talking, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he says, "Told you not to do that, bitch." Turns out he's talking to Jimmy, who's in the station right next to us. And Jimmy's just grinning. I knew what a bitch was, of course, but never I'd heard men call other men bitches. Here, it was a common word. When Dan would have to deal with other problems in the studio, in the salon, he would become very animated. His voice would go up and down by octaves. He would act like I would call effeminate. But then when he came back and talked to me, he was perfectly straight. He could code switch so easily. I'd seen code switching in other environments, but never in this one. And I found it fascinating. As fascinating as my manicure, which happened 6 o'clock every other Thursday, a block down the street from LA International Airport. And it was these 5 Vietnamese people. Lynn, my worker, her husband, her sister, her cousin, and the mother of one of them. And this was after school, so a couple kids were there. And Lynn would tell me stories about who she lost during the war back in outside of Saigon, or how Agent Orange, how close it came, or what they were worried about. And they were boat people for a while, and how she survived that. And these stories are all fascinating. I'm in Little Saigon for so long, and then I come to a gay pride parade, and then I go to a backgammon tournament that night where half the people are Persian Jews who have a different way of playing backgammon and a different moral structure about what you can bluff on and what you can't bluff on. It's quite my day of cultural diversification. My days with Dan finally ended. It wasn't so much a falling out as a falling down. Horsing around with some buddies, very outside of that area, I hit my head against a wall. No concussion, but big scrape, and it got infected, and it stayed raw for quite some time. There was no way that I was going to get a haircut at an area where AIDS is in the air when I have an open wound. An open wound makes you extra susceptible to anything. There's scissors, accidents can happen, even though Dan sterilizes every time. I didn't want to take the chance. So I found a barber in a safer part of town, AIDS-wise. This was a lady who came from Paris, and her stories I found interesting in a different sort of way. I went back and saw Dan one more time, paid him $15 from a season-long bet on the Dodgers, which I happened to be on the wrong side of. Told him I was all healed, but that my current lady preferred my new barber to the haircut Dan gave me. Dan fingers my hair, looks at it closely, and says that he wonders how I can be with a woman who had such bad judgment. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't kidding, but it didn't really matter. I had made my decision, and now that I knew that AIDS was something that it could affect us instead of them, I was going to do everything I could so that I wouldn't become a square on Dan's quilt. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, in Las Vegas. Man. Were you, wait, so you were, so I'm trying to get back to that time because this was early 80s, right?
Early 80s, I was 36 at the time.
You worried about it?
Was I worried about it then?
Yeah.
I knew the possibilities. Once I thought you needed to take the similar precautions then as we're doing now. I thought if I smart about it, probably I would be okay. But when you go to an area with a high rate of contagion, if that's the right word, you're taking unnecessary risk.
Yeah.
So I decided not to.
You ever find out what happened with those guys?
I didn't find out. I saw Dan a couple years later, and things were about the same in his life. And then I moved from LA in '93 to move to Vegas, and have no idea if they're. I Googled the name of their salon to see if it's still there, and it isn't.
Oh, it's gone. Yeah.
So whether they changed the name or went out of business, or they were about the same age, so they would be in their 70s now, and they may well have retired. They may well not be alive.
Can we ask who was responsible for this particular haircut that you're donning today?
Sure. Her name is Janet Ryan.
Okay. Looks really good is all I'm saying.
This one happens to be chosen by Bonnie and
your wife, right?
Yes. And Bonnie isn't driving anymore. Okay. So now we're doing it I'm getting every 4-week haircut, and Bonnie's getting an every 2-week one. And when we get them both done at the same time, then we go on the same trip. So we're doing things based on convenience, sort of, on driving, because it's too far to walk to.
Got you. Well, with the truth, we'll move on to Jeremy, we're going to come to you in just a sec, if that's okay. I have to say, though, being a man who doesn't have hair, that it really doesn't matter if it's a good haircut or not. You are blessed with a good head of hair, particularly that, you're not like 25 years old like me.
Well, you're not like 25 years old like you either.
All right, next. You're muted. Bye-bye. Okay, bringing up Jeremy in Seattle, Washington. By the way, I wanted to just say hello to Richard. I don't know if you're the winner of the slam. Nod your head if you won. Okay. Put your finger up if you're angry. You can unmute
Kurt
yourself.
won.
Oh, sweet.
The fix was
no politics there.
same.
Richard and Kurt were part of a sort of a grand slam, right?
Kurt was awesome, and so was Julie. It was a great night.
And Richard, you guys made it. That was awesome. We had
it's good to get the W, Kurt. It is, doesn't it?
I was patting palms. I just, I had to get one, Sean. I had to get one this year. I was
telling Ruth the same thing. We had this conversation earlier about the moth. I got my cheap moth win too, Ruth. I'm celebrating it. I don't give a shit.
It's in Sean's bio permanently.
Right, exactly.
It's all that matters.
Jim, who is in North Carolina, and many of you know Bob in Vegas, told a story. And Mary, I believe, is in North Carolina. Richard's in Vegas. And somebody else popped on that I may not have said hello to. Kurt's in Massachusetts. Sharon's in North Carolina. And a couple of you might have stories. So we're going to go from Jeremy. I think Anna's going to share something. Nod, yes? Maybe? Can you commit Whatever.
I
Matt.
don't usually your stuff is really structured, so I can't really tell. Is it something?
Yeah, it's a tween.
I'm like, oh, what do I do?
I'm in the tweener zone here.
Then I can be too if you can.
Thank you for making that really clear to everyone. I would love for you to tell something if you're comfortable that is either somewhat related to the mental health sphere.
Sure.
You get to decide that. Sharon may have something she wants to share, even it might be short, but that's fine. A few people here know that we do something called the 99-second slam. So some stories are really, really tight and small, and others are a little longer, like Bob's and Jim's. Check out this transition. One person who knows about the 99-second slam in Seattle, Washington. You like that, Jeremy? Years of training to be a host. Jeremy kicked ass and won our slam last weekend. And he also has a story for us that he's going to share. And I'm going to shut up and let him tell it. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Sean. And yes, that was a fantastically smooth transition. Well done. It's been 4 long, painful years of Trump, riddled with anxiety. There have been the incessant tweets, the barrage of human rights atrocities, and this pervasive feeling of impending doom throughout the past 4 years. And my anxiety has gotten more and more pronounced throughout this term. But coupled with that, there has been this very strange sense of deja vu. This feeling that somehow, somewhere in my life, I've been through some shit like this before, and I just can't put my finger on when. And it came to me as I was talking with a group of my storytelling friends. It was 2001. I was in jail again for an alcohol-related offense. Again. It wasn't that bad this time. I was in jail for public indecency and public intoxication, for urinating on a police vehicle, which I figured at some point would make for a great story, but not one that I was willing to tell yet. It wasn't that bad because I was doing weekends. You see, where I was at in Northwest Indiana, they had this system that they had put in place where if you were gainfully employed, they would allow you to plea bargain down and only spend your weekends in jail so that you can maintain your employment. And that would allow you to pay your debt to society, and more importantly, pay your debt to the county coffers. Kind of a win-win. It was my 3rd weekend in, and I was heading into the county jail. And I was making the rounds to see who else was in. One of the things that I learned about doing jail time was that it was important to know who you were around and who it was that you knew in the cell block. I'd been through all 5 of the cells, down the long corridor to the common room, and I didn't see a person that I recognized. But there in the common room was a man sitting at a table with his face in his hands. I didn't recognize him. Even though I couldn't see his face, I knew I would have because of his sheer size. He had to be 350 pounds of solid muscle, just filling out his orange jumpsuit. And even though all I could see was the blonde crew cut, I knew that I'd never seen this man before. I sat down at the table, introduced myself. He looked up at me, and I could tell that he had been crying or close to tears. And while I hadn't made a lot of good life decisions up until that point, I knew better than to mention that to him in that moment. Instead, I went ahead and told him about my experience with law enforcement and my reckless disregard and disrespect of the local constabulary, which ended up in him finally cracking a smile and letting out a little laugh. And then I asked him what he was in for, and his face fell. In a thick Russian accent, he told me that he was a truck driver, and he and his best friend would ride the rig together, going from state to state on jobs, one of them driving and the other one sleeping so that they could make more money. And then a couple of weeks ago, after a particularly large payday, they decided to spend a couple of $1,000 on cocaine. And then, continuing to drive from state to state, they went on a week-long binge doing blow. And finally, at the end of it, he asked his buddy to cut him up a couple of lines. And his friend told him that they were all out, that they had used up the last of it. And so, he said, in his thick accent, I took out my knife and I stabbed him in the chest twice and killed him. And I talked to him for a little while. I found a way to politely disengage from the conversation. And I took my jail-issued mat and brought it as far as I could up the cell block to the very last cell, which was the closest to the guard station, because I realized in that moment that I was the furthest I could possibly be away from safety. That this man, with his admitted temper that had caused him to kill his best friend over drugs, was probably easily capable of killing me with his bare hands. And that even if the guards gave a shit about that and reacted instantly, there was a good chance that if I said or did the wrong thing, they would not get there in time to do anything. For the next 47 hours, I was locked in a cage with a self-proclaimed murderer. And I realized that there was nothing that I could do if he chose to target me except do my best to vie for time and hope that someone came to my rescue. Sunday evening, when the cell doors finally swung open and the guards started calling out the names of the weekenders who were getting released, I was the first one in line ready to leave. I gave my newfound friend a polite nod, just in case he was there the next weekend, and I shuffled out the door with a huge sigh of relief. I realized, talking to my storyteller friends, that the level of anxiety that I was feeling stuck in that jail cell with this man is the same type of anxiety I've been feeling over the past 4 years with this batshit crazy administration just pushing the envelope and me not knowing what's going to happen the next time a tweet blasts through from Twitter. And I cannot wait for that cell door to open on January 21st. Thank you.
I didn't even realize I was muted, bud. How long were you in jail for, Jeremy?
Just 8 weekends that time.
What do you mean that time? Pretty much sure everyone was thinking that. So I mean, you led me into that one.
A couple of weekends here, a couple of days there, 8 weekends that time, 15 days one time.
Yeah.
So mental health, and this all ties back to being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So in my younger days, I had a really bad drinking problem that I just couldn't get under control because, you know, like any addiction, it's ugly and it's really tough to deal with. And sometimes you don't find. Some people never find their way out, and some people it takes a long time. And for me, it took a long time. So.
But you found your way out, or you're still in it?
I did. So I'm. What's today? The 6th. End of this month, it'll be 6 years. Before that, I had 3 years. Before that, I had 3 years. So pretty solid chunks of sobriety, and
Right.
pretty happy with where I'm at now.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing the story and that other stuff about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do wonder. This is kind of rhetorical, and I wonder, you know, how many people who are like borderline addicts, and whatever that means. Don't mean to be like colloquial about these things or casual, but how many people sort of tipped over into it in the last 9 months, you know, particularly in the last 9 months, you know, since we locked down, since most people's lives has just changed so much. Like, I know I'm drinking a lot. I'm drinking more. I've been pretty open and vocal about that. I say it kind of lightly, but it's not that funny, really, you know?
I've got friends that are in recovery that have, you know, had been in recovery for a while and have gone right back to it in the past few months. Just
of
the
course,
stress, the anxiety, the isolation, even like Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. Like big part of that is the camaraderie and
totally.
the experience and being there with a group of people who understand. So yeah, it's people for sure.
Right. Anybody who was marginalized, it just didn't make it better. However you want to define that. It just, yeah. I want to just acknowledge a couple people. Come on. Hey, Mary Jo, Jim Gregory in North Carolina, Bob Dancer in Vegas. Had I known some of the people that know Bob were coming, I would have had him wait, but I apologize. You missed his nice story. And Jeremy up in Washington. And so Mary Jo or Mary or even Kurt, just if you have a story you want to share, you'll let me know. If you don't unmute yourselves and let me know or put it in the chat. I'll assume you're here to listen. Right now I've got Anna and Sharon as our final two. All right, cool, Mary Jo. And in that time, if you change your mind, then you are welcome. And it can be, I know some of us are sort of, you know, in some circles where there's like, this is a story and that's not a story. Like, we can be loose here, at least for now. Julie's here. So if you have something you want to share, that's fine. A little looser than other circles. So Sharon, are you down to share what you've got? So you got to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. I'll shut up now.
Okay. So I have a weird relationship with death. Growing up as the child of Holocaust survivors, death always seemed relatively close. There are a lot of stories in my family about how people almost died or how people were there when people died. So growing up, I felt like, you know, this could be like when I was on a plane, I'm like, oh, this could be it, you know. When I was, you know, in the waves, I'm like, well, it could be a shark. This could be it. So a lot of this could be at moments. And I've noticed as an adult that I'm still somewhat morbidly preoccupied, so that when I go on a plane, I still say goodbye to people. And I do it in a way that's not scary, but I literally say goodbye. I'm like, hey, if anything happens, don't worry about our fight, don't worry about whatever. And every single time I get into a situation that could be dangerous, I get a little nervous because I left my room messy. I think about what kind of writings I left around. And most of the time, I don't want to go. Most of the time, I think it's a good life. I love my life. I don't want to go. But there was a time when that wasn't true, when I was actually disappointed that I didn't die. And that was the time period was the late 1990s. I moved to Israel for 6 years. I was pretty depressed. I'd left a PhD program. I have like half a P, I guess, from a PhD. And I was in Israel, and I was pretty much striving to figure out the meaning of my life, because I grew up with people who were very different than I was, grew up in kind of a ghetto, or people who turned religious, born again Jews. I was trying to figure out the meaning of life. And I kind of had in the back burner of my mind, well, we have the Intifada going on. Buses are blowing up every week. Restaurants are blowing up every week. It's very possible I could die here. And that didn't feel bad. That felt okay. Because here's the deal. If I committed suicide, right, which was like on the fringe of my mind, if I committed suicide, everyone who knows me would be so upset forever. That would never go away. They would all think it was their fault. They would all think, what could I have done? And I've given them a gift of lifelong guilt and pain, and I can't do it, right? So that's a no-go. But let's just say I die in a blown up bus. I'm like a freaking martyr, man. I'm like, hey, wow, she's going to be remembered beautifully. Nobody remembers my flaws. And life would be over. The pain that I was feeling at the time would be over. And I thought, that's not bad. So while I was in Israel, it was a close call twice. I was taking an a Hebrew language class in the mornings. And I had to get the bus every morning at 8:30 to get there at 9. And I did it. I dragged my ass in there every morning. Well, one morning I was just too tired. And I look at my clock and it's 8:15, and I'm just like, I'm just going to get there at lunch today. I can't deal. Go back to sleep. And right around 8:30, boom, like the whole apartment's shaking. And I'm listening and I don't hear anything. And I'm thinking, was that a sonic boom? Like, what the hell was that? And then all of a sudden I hear screaming. And then all of a sudden I hear sirens. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I go outside in my pajamas. All the neighbors are coming outside. Turned out a block and a half away on Aza Street, the number 19 bus that I was supposed to be on blew up. It blew up a block from my stop, a little bit after 8:30. So who the fuck knows, but I was supposed to be on that bus, right? And I'm just standing there in front of my house with my pajamas on. And the neighbors are saying we shouldn't go, because they had a thing in Israel that when a tragedy happened, you stay away to let the police and the ambulance in as close as possible. So we're listening to screaming, and we're listening to quiet. We're just all quiet, listening to the screaming, and there's just horrified. And I'm just thinking, what just happened? What the hell just happened? So that was one. The second one was, and I, by the way, I wasn't entirely certain that I was happy it wasn't me. I felt a vague disappointment, because that one made the news. The bus actually was brought to The Hague. And I thought, wow, that could have been me. It was a near miss, and I didn't know how I felt about that. Then the other one was a Saturday night, and I was with my roommate and my friend called and she said, you know, let's go out. We were planning on going out to a little restaurant called the Hillel Cafe, or Cafe Hillel it was called. And so she came and she picked me up and we went in a cab. Nobody had cars there, right? Cars in Israel are really expensive. Cabs are cheap. So we went out and my roommate said, hey, where are you going? And I said, Cafe Hillel, I'll see you later. And then while we're in the cab, we realize, holy cow, the Harry Potter movie has come to town and we have not seen it. We need to change directions and go to that instead. So we literally tell the cab driver right then and there, oh, change directions, go to the mall, we're going to go see the movie. I turn off my phone. This is my second year in Israel. I didn't realize at that time you don't turn off your phone ever. So turn off my phone. I get out of the movie 2 hours later, look at my phone, I have 27 messages. What the fuck? And they're all panicked. Well, what happened was shortly after I left the house, maybe half an hour later after I got into the movie, somebody walked into the cafe filled with an explosive device, blew themselves up, killed I don't know how many people, including a father and a daughter. The daughter was scheduled to get married the next day. I remember that. And Cafe Hillel was a shambles. And so my roommate knew that I was there. She tried to call me. My phone wasn't picking up. She called my family to see if they were in touch with me. By the time I got on the phone, close to 2 hours later, people were at the morgue looking for me. They were in the emergency room, they were at the morgue. And again, I didn't know how I felt. Part of me felt, I'm going to be honest, part of me was disappointed that I had missed out on an easy way out. And the story doesn't really have an end. I just wanted to tell it. And I just want to say, now, when I think about ways I could die, when I think about COVID, which I'm very at risk for, and I notice I'm being very careful to stay in, I guess something switched. Something changed up. No matter how glamorous death could be or would be, I guess I'd prefer not. Boom.
All right, we had our first boom of the evening. Thank you, Sharon. Some stories don't need certain kinds of endings. You know what I mean? You just finish with your last words and you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if we took a poll. It's not going to actually happen here, although I do know finally how to use the poll in Zoom, of people that at some point in their life had wished that, you know, like, all right, here's this moment. And if this thing happens, I'm done and it won't be painful. I wonder how many people would be like, yeah, I've been in that time. I've had that. Whatever it was, you know?
Yeah.
I'd leave.
I just think it's hard to come by a death that doesn't leave everybody feeling like it's their fault. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
You know what I mean?
Wait,
well, that's what I mean.
Anna's nodding her head for sure.
What I mean is, it's hard to come by a type of death where nobody blames themselves.
Is that right?
I think so.
But if I may, like when it comes to ideation as well, and there's that you're right, like that bomb, like, oh my God, Sharon, did you hear? Oh my God. And she was just, you don't have to worry about any of the fallout. I remember like as a kid, I was just always like, that just make me not wake up. It's like such a very natural like thing to want, is a way out that doesn't require like, you don't want your mom to feel bad or your community to feel bad. Wow,
Right.
what a coincidence. Well, we're happy.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
And in the last like 10 minutes, Julie joined us. So hi, Julie. And I'm not sure if you have a story, but I'm acknowledging you're here. Let me know if you want to share something. And Anna, really, that was a cool transition. I was almost going to not say anything and then just hope that you just kept going. Almost like an improv tag story thing there. Okay. I'm going to shut up, and whatever you've got, I know this is sort of unprepared, Anna Varela style, in a new home in Denver.
I feel like
And
Sharon and I did it when you did the partner thing before. Sharon and I don't know if we were teamed
it's
up
a
or if it was just
different event, but we can merge the two. I was saying
Sure.
earlier, I don't know if this is public, but I'm making it public. Anna recently purchased a home.
What?
So
Yeah, guys, it's old. It's an old one.
right.
I'm
But
happy.
congratulations for that. I just, it reminds me, I don't want to bring this back to me. You just purchased a home. I, not that long ago, purchased a phone. Doesn't exactly rhyme. It's the closest I can get in terms of the kinds of investments I'm making. So mazel tov. All right, I'll shut up, and whatever you'd like to share, we are all ears.
Okay.
Did you say she moved to Denver?
I'm in Denver. I moved here a year ago from Texas. Do not recommend South Texas. But if you're
Well,
there, they know.
Just like what?
But they know. But I'm in Denver now. So I was telling for whoever came in afterwards, I have a bedroom now, an extra bedroom. So if anyone is ever in Denver and is like, oh my gosh, you remember that crazy girl from the Zooms? Yeah,
Right.
you can stay with her now.
Wow.
So please.
Okay. That's awesome.
Okay, awesome. Well, I can actually, yeah, in a funny way, I can kind of just piggyback off
Sure.
of what Sharon was saying, because yeah, when it comes to mental health, I feel like ever since I was a kid, there was always kind of that ideation, right? There was always like that feeling of like, yeah, but like, is there an unplug? Is there an off switch that anyone has access to? And obviously, I was raised in like a really Catholic household. My parents are a little bit older than the average gap, if you will. And so I wasn't really privy to like mental health issues in the first place. So when I was a little bit younger, and I, by the way, plug for Sean's podcast, by the way, I would love to tell him a little bit more on that. But yeah, I started to have thoughts about like ending my life, but I didn't even have the word for it. That's how sheltered I was. And it kind of makes you realize like everyone has this kind of little dark Nancy the hamster, negative Nancy the hamster rolling around that she takes over the wheel sometimes. And if you don't have the right tools to get her off that wheel, that's pretty intense, right? She can, just totally take over your mindset. And so since I was little and I found a book on depression, that's how I found out about it. And I was going through and going, oh my gosh, I'm depressed, and it's very common and whatever. And so I was like 11 or 12 being like, there I am. And so my whole life that I can remember, I've always been going through kind of mental hacks, right? I've tried meditation. I've tried guided and not guided mental, mindfulness. I've tried yoga. I've realigned my chakras when I was in college. I tried Reiki. I tried purging. That's when you physically, before you meditate, you literally throw up so that your whole body's in shock and you're like, this is great. And then I've tried detox things where you're like only eating things that could potentially be improving your mental state. I've tried ayahuasca, San Pedro. I've dropped tons of acid, and I've done like heavy bong rips, that kind that make you mentally question everything you've ever done. I've done everything possible that I feel like doesn't harm me in any way to try to fix Nancy the hamster. Do you know what I mean? But she's a difficult hamster to catch. She's nippy. She's mean and aggressive. Everyone has her. Some of you have her. She's maybe a little obese. She's just chilling there. She's like having little snacks and she's happy. She's like not bothering anybody. But some of you have hungry Nancy the hamsters, like I do, like maybe Sharon does. Like it's just a huge part of our existence. And so what I came up with for sharing today, since there's not too much structure, is that the story, the boom, if you will, sorry, Sean, I know you hate that, but the boom, if you will, for this one, I'm going to pre-boom it. And that's you all for me. I want you to know that throughout my life, the only thing that has been consistently able to affect my mental health immediately is a good conversation. It's a good story. It's the kind of story that grabs the end of your neurons the same way. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the way you clean metal connections. You grab a scraper and you really scrape off any corrosion and dirt and grime. That's what a good conversation is. That's what, listening to someone that has a different perspective from you. That's why some of my best friends are Trump supporters. Some of my best friends are people that have totally different views than I. They're totally different ages. They're from totally different backgrounds than I am. Or, you can find those conversations from the crazy guy on the street, the crazy lady that sits next to you on the bus. I used to take the bus to work every day on purpose so that I could talk to a crazy person. And I'm one of those people, right? So if you sat down next to me, you'd be like, oh my God, she won't shut up. Like, I'm one of the crazy people. But I know that's the way I got my coffee. That's the way I got my Xanax. That's the way I got my, whatever it is that you're taking. I think that you can actually agree that maybe a good conversation does that for you regardless. And so I wanted to bring up, in a short and sweet kind of way, that you guys are my crazies right now. I don't get to go on the bus. I don't get to go on the street. I love popping into this. And I love that throughout this whole crazy period of the move, when there were times where, like, you sit there and you go, oh my gosh, I have this new house and not a single one of my friends has come by because, COVID, because they're busy, because, oh, I have a migraine, because I get it. But all these things, like all these steps that you build up to, you think, oh my gosh, I won't ever be sad again. I'll buy a house. Boom, now you're alone. Like, it's such a crazy thing to know that no matter what, a good, phenomenal conversation. Since I was 12, since I first picked up that depression book, since and now I'm 25, 26th in January, so don't judge me. But it's always been the kind of conversations that you finish up, the kind of stories that you listen to, and they kind of make you feel human and connected. So thank you all for being my boom. Boom.
What? Imagine what Anna could do if she prepared, for fuck's sake. Wow.
Never.
Don't prepare. Yeah, it's overrated. I know this is probably, you weren't necessarily going for something. One of the takeaways for that was, I was just thinking, God damn, I miss my fucking Xanax. That's actually what I was unfortunately thinking when you brought up Xanax. It triggered me, Anna. I'm like, man, I just love that fucking drug. I do.
Yeah, I love dropping acid. Don't get me wrong.
I like your conversation, but I want my goddamn Xanax.
And you can have it, Sean. But what I'm saying is,
Anna, I can't. My doctor won't fucking let me. So you're wrong about that in Denver.
Here, if I can question you back, I have a question. I used to, in the vein of acid or weed or whatever it is, whatever substance, oxy, I know that everyone else is having these
whatever it is.
When you have that mental state, though, that clearing that Xanax gives you, aren't you able to kind of access the lessons that you got from before and apply them again just a little bit?
What do you mean? Well, for me, if you take edge off a tiny bit, it does allow you to do some things that you otherwise could not do. But that is one reason I would, and anyone else can chime in here, like, why do people drink?
Yes.
Or do any drug? I mean, that's got to be one of the reasons, certainly for me. And I don't know others who have dabbled with drugs or alcohol. I'm curious. I don't think it's like, hey, I want to drink and just fucking puke and crush my liver and die early. I mean, maybe some people, but it's like, right? Like,
but you could argue, like, drinking, for example, people love to do it for social occasions because it takes away that like filter. And so then, like,
one reason, sure.
So sure. If you could what I'm saying is, if you could access what Xanax gives you without that, then wouldn't you? And then don't you think that a badass conversation could do that for you? Like, that's what I think. That's my, if you will.
I will answer and you can, Anna was our last teller. Feel free to unmute yourselves and join in however you might like, or my answer, unfortunately, Anna, as somebody who advocates and encourages conversation as best I can, and on the podcast, I actually think Xanax is fucking better. Sorry.
Yeah.
I love conversation. I think it's a game changer, but there are certain things that certain drugs do that chemically that I've not found a substitute for. No.
Agreed.
I'll just be honest with you. I wish I could say that. No.
Numbs.
I'm with you, Anna. I'm with you. I feel like
I think there
shit is deep.
Talking about the boom community, I think there is something about the Zoom boom because everybody's looking at everybody's face at the same time, except for those few people that are out. But people are, and so I think when you're seeing faces and you're seeing, and everybody all at once up on the screen, that it encourages different kinds of conversation that would happen if you're sitting in rows, or you can't, not everybody can see each other as well to participate, because I've gotten into some really wild discussions that I don't think ever would have happened in a different format.
I'm still advocating for Xanax.
I'm not advocating against it. I just think that you do this, right? You're the organizer for this, so that's the beauty in it. I love
do
it.
stuff in which there's conversation, and without it, I would probably be dead.
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying that you know, like if I could do it and be on Xanax, and you could, and by the way, yeah, the generic.
If I could function on acid all the time, Sean, 100%. They're just different.
Like you were doing that, you were walking around all those houses doing that census shit, right?
I did the census.
How much better would that have been on acid?
Man, as long as they weren't the mean people. Get out of my house. Blah, blah. And you're like, what?
I almost did that, and I got to the point where I was gonna start the census, and there was like a lot of training, and they frustrated me so much that I was like, I can't deal with you. And I didn't even collect my training money.
You can still do it. It's the government. You can do it till you're dead, dude.
But no, I don't have like the phone to implant to put it in. They took it back.
Oh.
Like they take your stuff back.
Yeah, they do.
So in order to put your hours in, I just got so far. I was like, anyway, no one gives a shit about this stuff. Anyway.
Well, I'll cash in your training hours. Don't worry. I'll call.
Hook me up. Thank you, Anna. All right. Thank you all for your stories. And if anybody has a question for tellers, if they're comfortable sharing more about what they shared, if it sparked a question or something else for you, by all means, I'm curious. We could be cash about it until we skedaddle. It's 8:15. So let's stay on until like 8:30. Make it a 15 minutes of chatting, and then we'll do our own things.
Can I ask Sharon, what did you have in your lap? What are you making?
Oh, I'm making Christmas balls.
Oh.
I started out making them for myself, and then the neighbors wanted some, so I made them for the neighbors. And then my friends, I'm making for my friends, and then there's an elementary school that's trying to do a drive-through, so I'm making 10 for them. So I've got lots of Christmas balls of all different colors, but the most popular, just so you should know, is white.
White Christmas balls?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, they're made out of chicken wire. I
saw that.
Chicken wire. If anybody ever needs chicken wire, I'm your girl.
What is a Christmas ball?
You know what a Christmas ball is? Oh my God. Okay, let me see if I can plug it in for you. So it's a chicken wire wrapped with lights. And when it lights up and you see it at night, you don't see the chicken wire, you just see the lights. So we can have more different conversation, and I'll see if I can plug it in for you.
What makes it white? The light?
How do you make the chicken wire into a globe? I mean, to make it, because that looked very round, very symmetrical.
That's the neat trick. I am Christmas ball girl.
It's not as if she can tell you and you can just do it, Richard. This is years of
well, it's a YouTube video, honestly.
Or a YouTube video.
But I'm gonna try to plug it in for you and see what you can see.
Okay.
But basically, it makes the neighborhood pretty.
No, they look great. I now you made me curious. I want to go Google Christmas balls.
Careful what you come up.
What you'll turn up.
Yeah.
You might find some weird stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Computer. Be careful, Richard.
Yeah. Like the weirdest porn site ever, right?
Yeah, like Naked Santa or something.
Yeah.
Or on Saturday Night Live, some kind of sweaty balls or something.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorite bits ever.
Somebody I was making Christmas balls. They said, "You're making sweaty balls?" Really different.
Sweaty balls.
Yeah, the Anna guest star, and who is the other?
What was that?
Alec Baldwin was in
Alec
that.
Well,
Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin, but then they were doing like if they were interviewing from PBS or something, they were doing this
NPR. It was an
NPR.
NPR
So that was
interview.
Anna Gaskar. I can't remember who the other woman was.
So this is what it looks like. When
Oh, that's so
Ah.
Oh,
pretty.
wow.
Oh,
Oh, I want one.
yeah, when,
Mary Jo, the crafter, is almost orgasming.
I'm thinking I'll pick up chicken wire and blue lights and we'll make Hanukkah balls when I go visit my brother.
Your balls are terrific, Sharon. Your balls are wonderful.
everyone
Yes.
Sharon, I feel like Sharon and Mary
anyone
Jo.
wants any help making Christmas balls, I'm your girl.
Mary Jo,
Mary
and Sharon.
Jo, you do
Although
not want to
of
be.
course, this is my super Christmas specialty.
I've
Mary
never seen
Jo,
you
you do
so
not want to
proud
be
of
giving
balls
people
that have
blue
gone
balls.
Oh,
No.
right.
Don't give people blue balls.
I think that Mary Jo and Sharon legitimately would have a good Zoom together doing some of this crafting stuff, though. Because
Oh, yeah.
I
We've
like it a lot.
had conversations about crafting.
Yeah,
Where does one get chicken wire?
Oh,
Home Depot or Lowe's.
Okay.
Some people keep chickens within wire.
so you want her to steal it? Like, we
You know, I
understand
do
the
not
original
keep
purpose.
chickens.
wow, Sharon, that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's called chicken wire, apparently.
I think we
woke
got
up
that.
this morning. I didn't know I would hear that sentence. That's very cool.
So Sharon, are you saying that they should buy it from those places or take it from the people who have the chickens behind the chicken wire?
I did not think of that option. That is one option.
There's
No,
a
that would not be nice.
Maria, who's in
Worry
a
about the chickens
class.
running wild.
Maria, who's from Venezuela, and she is in my dance class. She lives in Durham. She has chickens.
So
I have friends who have chickens, and I live very close to the city, so the idea of stealing their chicken wire would be awful.
awful. I am not advocating anything. I'm a peaceful, law-abiding citizen.
Why don't you make it with different color lights? Why just the white lights?
Oh, I have. I've made it with green. My own personal lights are blue and white. A little shout out to Jew.
That's a shout out to Israel, not really to Jew.
No, Jews are blue. We are.
What are the different? So what are the different religions or
Jews
nationalities?
have blue
colors?
balls. In addition to the circumcision, they have blue balls.
Ain't that the truth?
That was hilarious.
Sharon, what would be other people that colors? Like, let's do a game here. Ready?
Well, Catholicism is obviously red.
Catholics.
Red, like sin.
Yeah, red.
All right.
Like cardinals. Yeah.
Ready? I'm gonna do. Not you guys can do this too. It doesn't have to be just religions. Like
Buddhists are purple for
No.
calm.
I thought orange.
lavender.
I would have said orange.
Same
Yeah.
orange.
Like a soft orange. What about Russia?
Saffron rose.
Red.
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 Going with the flags. That makes sense. I mean, yeah.
They were white Russians.
Well,
I like drinking
That's
white
right.
Russians.
And black Russians.
Yeah,
Evolved
with the
it's a
alcohol.
very
we're
very
just doing like a
expensive
random
thing.
improv pop thing here.
Can they make black lights? Not like black light that makes things glow, but lights that are black.
It'd be hard
Well,
I
to
think
you
they have
couldn't
those
see
around
them in the
town.
dark.
No, I think you can find those around
This is
town.
what happens. This is what happens when 4 people at the same time on Zoom talk. It's awesome.
I'll tell you something I learned about colors from lights. So you think there are white lights, but when you look for Christmas lights, you have to choose between warm white and cold white.
We know which one.
Nobody ever makes you choose that in real life, but Christmas lights will force you to choose.
No, if you paint your house, you have to choose between like 87 different versions of white.
Oh, Val,
There-
I've never painted my house. That's true. That's
Yeah, there's, cafe mocha. What do they call it? I don't know. I can't even remember all the names, but trust me, there's a lot of versions of
There's
white.
And
ivory.
depending on what color you paint your trim, that white that you picked out that you thought was the perfect white might look different. Now, I have taken classes on color theory and I know how the eye works. And so you can never be too careful.
And also remember your aura also reflects the colors that you choose in your life. Please be
Absolutely.
aware.
This from the lady.
Is that the acid talking,
I love
Anna?
it.
It, I'm obviously I'm not joking. Who needed to hear that? Who needed
I'm
But I
really
figured out
comfortable
that-
with the fact that my aura is purple.
there,
It certainly is.
100%. Yeah.
It's very
Well,
good.
you wanted it to match your quilt.
Yeah. And everything that lots of things I own. Yes.
Do you notice that more than once Julie has perfectly matched whatever quilt she chose to put in the background during the Zoom meeting?
Well, the quilt has every color known to man in there.
But she has more
Oh, this
Actually,
is
that's
only
not true.
one. This is only one of my quilts. I have
Yeah.
many quilts, and they're on different walls for just for Zoom. So today I was going to change my clothes because this is what I've been wearing all day, and then I thought, no, this is perfect for the purple quilt.
wow, that's cool.
I'm wondering if anybody else who's been quiet and may want to say something because we're yapping away. Cassie, Jeremy, no pressure either way. Ruth.
Feel free to
Either way,
share
thanks for
anything
coming
that's
and telling or listening. I really appreciate it because this is an event that's just sort of finding its identity, and it will. It will.
Wait.
And I welcome you all to tell a story out here next time. I'll tell you the date when it comes up. The next event, by the way, most of you I see or talk to somewhat regularly, but next week is Flash, which is fun. That's sort of, some of you have done that. Anna, you
My
did-
favorite. Yeah.
that's fun. And
It's
then
Julie's idea.
And then the week after, we're doing another slam. So Jeremy can't do it because Jeremy and a few other people who went to the second round are in our grand slam.
Wait, so it's a
Unfortunately-
99-second slam
Yeah,
in
yeah,
2
yeah.
weeks? Okay.
I haven't been doing any of those other slams in a long time. I can't.
So
my brain
2
can't.
weeks, so 6 and 14, that's the 20th?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Well,
doing it
I
the
may or
same
may not-
way.
I'm going on
So-
a trip. I may or may not be back.
Where
I'll
are
do
you
it. I'll
going?
be
There you
there.
go.
I want to compete
My
with
brother.
all these people that you say are so great.
Right. Jeremy's one of them. That's great.
My brothers.
A lot of people here have done very well in the slam in different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Man.
was on the 20th then? The next one?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is, oh, you're new. So yeah, get in because I have 8 slots for totally new people. So they're guaranteed. And then the rest of them are for other people. And thus far, I've never had to do like put people in the hat and some don't tell. But I think maybe this time or next time it's getting a little more popular. That will be a feature I cannot avoid where not everyone will be able to tell and we'll work out something as fair as we can. But
Okay.
you're new to it. So
I'll message you.
I'll send you the information. It's $5 to play and you win money. You got $5?
Let's see.
Here's the question.
I know
Yeah.
you just bought a
She
house.
just
So I know
bought
you're
a
like,
house. She doesn't
exactly.
spend
So
extra
maybe
money.
she is like,
Can I show you guys my favorite room of this house?
Please.
Yes, please.
We love show and tell.
Okay, ready? Let's see.
which room? What? We'll keep it a surprise.
This is the original wallpaper that came with the house.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh my-
1895, you said, right?
Yeah, let me go up the stairs a little so you can get a better view.
So
of the
that's
room.
not only
Wow.
like they didn't have to redo it. That's been there for over 100 years in like just pristine.
This one looks like it was redone in the late 60s, 70s.
Yeah, it's definitely
Oh, yeah.
70s. Yeah.
I love
But
that.
this room is the original parlor. Let me see if you can see and you can actually see, no joke, it's literally coming apart and you can see it's the original. Yeah. So a lot of it is original, a lot. Like I have look at the heater.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
There's a furnace under there, an original. So yeah. So this is my favorite room.
Look at little baby Anna's owning a fucking house with that big. She's got no wrinkles, motherfucker. She owns a house.
I do.
Oh, shut up, man.
That's very cool.
I want to hear the story about how you went from North Carolina to Denver and bought a house. What's that about?
Via
I was-
Texas.
I was in South Texas. I was in LA. I'm from LA. I met a boy at a music festival. The guy's like, I'm
Of
moving to
course you
Texas.
did. Yeah.
So yeah, of course I did. And then I moved down to South Texas with this guy and immediately was like, uh-oh. And then after 3 years, if you think I'm weird, this is how I am always. So imagine a room full of Texans. They're all like, holy shit, what'd she fall on? Like, and then after that, I opened up a map and loved the idea of not going back to LA, but not, and so Denver's in the middle of the world. And so, or it feels that way. And so I came out here. I love it. There's like a huge boom of people of my age, obviously with the legalization of marijuana and like the booming economy. So I'm going to be able to grow old with the community and like just hopefully, right? And so here I am. Ta-da.
Wait, I thought you lived next to Sean.
No, we met in Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anna Tree Road.
Oh yeah, Tree lives next to me. Anna, we met because I was trying.
I'm sorry. Tree's first name is also Anna, right?
Anu.
Anu.
Oh, Anu. Okay, that's
Anu.
where the confusion came in. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Sean, for backstory, you guys, was trying to form the same kind of community in Buenos Aires when I met him. He was hosting an expat comedy show. So he was grabbing all of these English speakers and trying to have us do comedy shows at different bars all around. And let me tell you, it was really successful. We had really funny people. The only reason, right? The issue was that when you sit in a room of expats, you actually have people from all over the world that speak English.
Really
so
hard.
you can't I tried to drop a Colombian joke. There was a Colombian family. You can't make therapist jokes because there's 5 different nationalities of therapists. It was really hard, but it was a good effort, Sean. It was good.
It was an effort. I actually kind of took that over from someone, and then so it wasn't like a totally original idea. And but remember the guy? I don't know. Where'd you tell it? The place in San Telmo or the original place?
It might have been the original place, a small like venue.
Did you have a stage or no?
There was a mic.
Right. That guy went fucking flipped out, and I have no idea why. And he like booted me. I don't know if you know the story behind that. No one gives a shit here, but. And then I ended up moving it to a place in San Telmo.
Right.
I live. This is, by the way, for those of you that don't know, San Telmo is a neighborhood in Buenos Aires, which is like the birthplace of tango, and is not far from Club Boca with Diego Maradona. Like that whole. It's just.
R.I.P.
But it's really, it didn't make much money, and it's really tricky to get people who run a club, and they're like, you got to bring some people in here, like we're doing this work for you. So it got weird, and then eventually just fizzled. Yeah.
And also Argentina's like that. I don't think it's 100%
It's
you.
so true. Argentina is very much like that. My Spanish is not as great as it could be, which didn't help. But whatever. I'm glad we met and you got to tell your funny stuff. I do remember you being funny.
It was not funny. He's lying. It was not funny. I had a 5-minute stretch. The only time they laughed, I remember it vividly, Sean. The only time they laughed is when I looked at my watch nervously, wondering how much time I had left, and the whole room erupted.
You know what's crazy about what you did? You did it. You stayed up there for 5 minutes, despite people not thinking what your shit was hysterical, and you stayed. That's not easy to do. That is not easy to do. It's not. And you were what, 20?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to make a little difference. It shouldn't, but it does. Like you're a kid, man.
Yeah.
So good for you.
But now she's almost 26. Don't judge.
I'm not. No, I
have to run off. Bye-bye.
See you later, alligator.
Steve Richard.
Yeah, there were some funny people that were somewhat regular, but they were the Argentines mostly.
Yeah, they talk a lot
They
about
could pull it off easier. They know it's tricky for the expats,
Anyone in here ever have a successful comedy night where you're like, shit, I was funny?
Not when I meant to.
No one.
I don't think this is the right audience for that.
I was once saved from an open mic. We were on our way to an open mic and it ended up being canceled. And so me and actually Chris and Harwood, my other storytelling friends, we went instead to a taqueria. And I was like, okay, well, let me do the bit for you that I was going to do. And instead of being standing there with a room full of people who didn't think it was funny, instead I have my friends looking very like trying to be supportive and concerned and really making a lot of eye contact and nodding. And I was like, yeah, I think tonight worked out really well. I think I got that out of my system and boom. Like,
love it.
Boom.
Jeremy, you said you went on a date for it?
I had a really awkward first date at a comedy club where the three women who were the comedians pulled me up on stage for the dating game, and I got to answer questions with two other bachelors. And at the end of it, they decided that it was a tie. So we were going to decide who the final winner of the dating game was by a dance-off. 15 seconds of random music and me in front of 150 people busting out my best dance moves awkwardly on stage on a first date with a woman I was trying to impress, coupled with the fact that I have no good dance moves. So there wasn't this plethora of dance moves to choose from.
Right.
Like my best were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna think about which ones are my best ones. I have zero moves when it
And you
comes.
couldn't use the hip.
Jeremy, the fact that you're thinking in terms of having dance moves tells us everything we need to know. People who dance would never even say that. Just
I'm
so
sure
we totally get it. Right.
I'm sure you are all.
Yeah, you're done.
I'm sure you all know that I never saw her again. Like,
Boom.
yeah, that was bad.
But hey, man,
he tried too.
I would be impressed, just like I said with you, Anna. I would be impressed. This is not my way of expressing interest in you, Jeremy. Of you just doing it. I don't care that you danced. That you did it is like,
Yeah.
you guys got some moxie, man. He's got something.
It's probably going to make a story someday for one of these slams at some point, right? I could probably incorporate that and flesh it out. There's a lot more there.
I from the little I know of you, I feel like you have many a story in that novel. Right?
Awesome.
Yep.
Stuff you've shared, it is like, whoa, okay. I've heard one tonight and two the other night.
I've let it
All of them, you're like, yeah, all right, this dude's not holding back. He's not fucking around. He's going for it. I mean, I like that.
The way to be.
Yeah.
That's right.
What is everyone else doing with the rest of their nights?
Good question.
Christmas balls
Good question, Anna.
Christmas balls.
Christmas balls.
Yeah.
I've been
I'm probably gonna I'd probably drink a couple beers and watch a little flicks. I have been enjoying my CBD a lot, but I don't have any, so that I'm jonesing for a little bit.
Cool.
I had that. Bob,
Can I share another activity that I've been doing? Oh, Bob, what are you up to tonight?
Yeah.
I'm finishing off a story whose due date is Tuesday morning. I have a weekly blog.
Oh, yeah.
That I still need some tweaking.
Cool.
What about you, Mary Jo?
Well, it's earlier here than for most of you dudes, and so I'll be having dinner in a little while, and